Happy New Year, all. We are back. It's 2016, and we're two Protons and a Cloud. Every week, we bring you a live dialogue digging into some of the industry news affecting the developer community and chat with our guest of the week on a topic we want to know more about. I'm Adrienne Kreft, one of your hosts and a technical evangelist for HPE Helion.
Hi, and I'm Sujay Maheshwari, your second host, and I'm a developer evangelist at HPE Helion. Welcome and Happy New Year.
So it's episode 14, doing well, Sujay, and we are continuing to bring you great content. Today, we've invited one of our best guests yet, and we're going to dive into how Docker is changing the third-party services landscape, what recipe does Cloud Foundry need to follow for third-party integration, and what challenges can we try to solve for developers in 2016. So first, let's kick it off with the news, and don't worry, we are going to talk about football and politics, but cloud-worthy, of course.
Yes. So let's first talk about this book club. I suggest you looking up 10 cool tools from the Docker community. We'll throw in the link. Yes, Adrian. In the comments by Manu Marks, the director of developer relations at Docker. It's a compilation of 10 projects created by the community that have advanced the developer experience.
Yeah, really cool. I'll be sure to add that to our book club, CJ.
Right.
And then IBM announced a new partnership with Ford, the car company. Their joint development efforts for the Smart Mobility Experimentation Platform will allow Ford's research team to look at consumer driving patterns and trends to help with predictive analytics and more efficient decision making. So the platform uses IBM Cloud for continuous updating for streaming analytics.
Wow, pretty cool. And Adrian, businesses aren't the only ones moving to the cloud. Increasingly, churches are looking to the cloud, not the heavens, but the digital realm. Sorry, I stole that joke, and it was really bad. But I thought it was a great joke. For example, an Indiana congregation of 5,000 people posts online sermons for the world and reaches about 17,000 views a month.
Yeah, and they actually have one video that's more than 6 million views. Although it's not a sermon, it's a new mom parody to the tune of Let It Go. And Sujay, I'll spare you the sing-along right now.
Thank you very much. The collection plate also has gone digital with options that include smartphone apps and texting to give. Yeah, pretty cool.
And don't tell anyone, but I did peruse Redfin during work hours to take a virtual look inside Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella's $3.5 million home, which just went up for sale in Seattle, where I live. But sadly, I can't afford it.
Oh, really? I thought you didn't like the place. That's the reason you did put it off.
I didn't win the lottery yesterday, Powerball.
Oh, somebody from California did, and I'm not going to say who.
Dang it, CJ, take care of me.
Satya was also in the news, Adrian, right, with his White House invitation and prominent seat right behind First Lady Michelle Obama on Tuesday's State of the Union address, with President Obama laying out education initiatives such as goal to ramp up computer education in nation schools. Microsoft, I'm sure, will have a major part with their ongoing participation with core.org and teach.org and the 75 million pledge Satya who has already announced last year to help make computer science mainstream for students.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a big announcement from Tuesday. And I know all three of us today, we all love data. And, well, it's the playoffs. So the NFL selected an RFID system for player tracking from Zebra Technologies that has been expanded to 32 teams this season. And basically, their goal is to track the XYZ coordinates of each player on the field and the ball placement within inches. And they're confident that they're coming close to achieving this. So they use nickel-sized sensors under the pads, and these are communicated via unique radio frequency receivers mounted around the stadium. So the amount of data computer tracking can provide will change the game. I think at present, though, there's a lot of data noise, and I'm not so sure the coaches have the time or the motivation to crunch the numbers. So we'll see how it plays out.
Right.
So now let's turn to our guest. This week, cloud aficionado Dave Nielsen joins us for a lively discussion to kick off a year of Cloud Foundry. Dave is the co-founder of Cloud Camp, leader of the Silicon Valley Cloud Foundry user group, and is currently advocating Redis at Redis Labs. With over 12 years of developer marketing experience, Dave has helped companies like PayPal, StrikeIron, Mode, and Redis Labs create and run their own developer programs. So be sure to follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Nielsen, definitely following this broadcast. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so we've gotten to know you through various meetup events. Sujay has been there with you, and you're a recognizable member of the Cloud Foundry community. Anything you're working on, or kind of what's next on your calendar?
Well, I'd say there's two things I'm working on. Number one is personally, I have some very basic training that I'm working on around getting started with your first Cloud Foundry app. And it's a very simple Node.js type application, of course, also using Redis, but that's really not the major point. And I'll be offering that in a sort of a workshop format here in the next about 6 weeks. And then second of all, professionally, I'm working here at Redis to create a service broker so that anybody who deploys a Cloud Foundry platform as a service environment can also have essentially Redis as a service using our Redis Labs enterprise cluster product. And I'm working with Altoros. You probably know the Altoros guys, to basically create this service broker. And initially we're targeting open source Cloud Foundry, and we're also targeting Cloud Foundry on Power, which is an IBM platform. So that's our initial target, but we'll also be expanding this beyond to other, any other platform who wants to work with us.
Wow, lovely.
Yeah.
So Dave, we spoke about the format, right? So here are some interesting questions which we have. Let me kick this off with. So let's get into the focus of our episode, right? I mean, and touch on some big trends. So particularly last time when we met, we spoke about Docker a lot, right? And so the question is, how is Docker changing the third-party services, particularly, and that landscape? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, well, first let's just start off with one of the biggest changes that Docker enables. And there's many things that it does. But when you're talking about third parties, you can't not talk about sharing. And the beautiful thing about Docker is that in order to share a Docker file, or even share a Docker image, it can be extremely lightweight. And so in that case, if you want to send somebody an application or a third-party component that you've created, you can do it through email. And on top of that, of course, they have the Docker Hub, which makes it even easier. But even without the Docker Hub, you could share these files. Whereas in the past, if you were going to share a virtual machine image, those things were almost always too big to send through email. I don't think anybody ever sends them through email. And even downloading, sometimes at like a workshop, if you wanted people to share, to download a virtual machine, it would clog up the network, and you couldn't even all download the file to get your workshop going. So sharing by itself, I think, is the game changer. Of course, there's many other things as well, but I think that's having a dramatic impact on third-party components, combining stacks together to make new solutions, and then sharing it with others to create not only new solutions but also educational workshops, etc. And I think that's had a dramatic impact already.
Right, and I think one of the things sharing enables is the way you can, how quickly you can get something up and running, validate, show it to your internal team that, okay, this is how this can be done. This is so simply it can be done. So I understand your point. I see your point. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And kind of moving into Cloud Foundry as a whole, and considering your current projects, Dave, if Cloud Foundry has to win the hearts of developers, what recipe do they need for third-party integration?
Yeah, so also, if you compare, let's for a moment, just compare Docker versus Cloud Foundry, just for those who are, I don't know, maybe not completely sure on the concept. If you want a complete platform as a service where, and complete is even really the right word, if you just want a fully functional platform as a service where you can deploy an application, you can expect it to automatically scale, you have other components like user ID, login, kind of additional third-party component services that you can plug in, and you want all of this provided to you as a service. Cloud Foundry is just hands down the winner there. It's far in advance ahead of just about anything else, especially having to do with open source. And Docker provides some of that, but it's like tons of it is manual where you have to build it yourself. So I don't look at Docker as being a platform as a service at all. I look at it as being a container, a component that perhaps you can build a platform or service out of. But that container component is very useful and very important. So from a third-party perspective, I think it's important for Cloud Foundry to quote unquote win. I think it's important for it to support Docker in the ways in which developers and customers want to use it, because it is so useful and it is capturing so much imagination and attention. I think it's just necessary. But Cloud Foundry already supports the concept of containers, so it's actually not a dramatic change for Cloud Foundry to do so. In fact, we already have working examples of Cloud Foundry running applications in containers. So I don't think it's too far off in the future where we'll see this being really a very common way in which Cloud Foundry manages applications. Now, excuse me, just supporting containers is not enough, in my opinion. I think we need to further support integrations with other supporting components. So, for example, I don't know exactly how this would work, but I think there's probably a way in which there can be a Docker Hub-like website where you go to and you can find Docker containers that will run inside of Cloud Foundry, or even better, will already know how to talk to the service brokers that you have enabled in your platform, and so you can have essentially a catalog of Docker containers that can run inside of Cloud Foundry, and therefore bridge the ecosystem, this vast and vibrant ecosystem that's growing around Docker, to build simple components and simple containers, and then bridging that and making, kind of filtering and finding the ones that will run in Cloud Foundry, and therefore opening up your Cloud Foundry ecosystem to be more vibrant using these containers.
Right.
So I think that's important. And then there's tons of other ways in which we can make it easy for a developer, for example, to maybe even download Cloud Foundry in a container and just simply run it on their laptop with connections to the other databases and services that they're using to develop, and making it easier for them to develop right there on their laptop without having to be connected to a Cloud Foundry running in their corporate network or something like that.
Right, right. Like something like cloud on your computer.
Yeah, and it's totally possible. So, I know that there's folks working on variations of that, and I know some folks at Pivotal. I know some folks at IBM. I mean, they're obviously Staccato can run already on your laptop. It does it in its own way, but that there is a good example of how you can, in fact, Staccato could really shine a light on perhaps how the others can catch up to it in that respect. So, there's definitely movement, and I just wish it would move a little faster.
Right, I agree. Although we'll share that note with our Staccato team back here at HP, and
Please
thanks
do.
for the kind words. So let's move on. And since you work at Redis, any insight, examples of cool implementations involving, data, uh, Cloud Foundry, and Redis as a service, of course, which you would like to share with our audience today?
Right. Yeah. So actually, one of the projects I'm working on is to help folks take advantage of Redis inside of Cloud Foundry, because not a lot of folks know this, but Redis Labs, and therefore Redis, is available already, not just on the multiple clouds, like whether it be IBM software or Amazon or Google or Microsoft Azure. We actually have a Redis cloud of our own running on each one of those public clouds. So because what's so important about Redis is that it's a cache or it's an in-memory database. It's about speed. It's about being extremely fast. And so you don't want to have to access Redis across a public network. You want to be able to access it from within the cloud that you're using. And so that's why we've deployed on all 4 of those. But because of that, now if you're running Cloud Foundry on one of those clouds, you now have Redis available to you, close by where you need it. And so some of the obvious use cases would be if you have to do anything around user session management or anything just caching your data. That's a very simple one. That's a way a lot of people get started with Redis. And we also have connectors specifically into, or I should say service brokers specifically made and are running today live on Pivotal Web Services and for IBM Bluemix. So you can use Redis there now. And then what we're also doing, like I said before, is we're building this service broker that will allow you to then use Redis in your on-prem Cloud Foundry deployments. So with Staccato, with IBM Bluemix Local, with Pivotal CF. So you'll have these options pretty much anywhere you go. You'll be able to use Redis. Now, some of the things that people will do with Redis is the quite common scenario is not just the caching, but also pub/sub. So anytime you have an application where you want real-time communication from one user to another user, a typical way to do this is you'll maybe change a calendar appointment, or you'll update some text while you're typing, and you'll send that to the server, which will then push that into Redis, and Redis will then, through pub/sub notification with the Node.js or whatever you're using, send that communication back down to all of the browsers that have subscribed to receiving updates.
Right.
But there's so many more. I can't even begin to tell you all of them. Folks use it as a message broker. They'll use it as for leaderboards. Anytime you have a real-time like whiteboard or anything like that. So there's tons and tons of examples. What I'm hoping to do is, by having this service broker out there, being able to provide, the training that I provide will not require you to have Redis, but obviously I'll provide that as an option. And then anytime anybody goes to deploy one of my applications that I'm helping folks create through the training, they'll be able to deploy it on any cloud anywhere, any Cloud Foundry-based cloud, and it will work. And that's my goal here with this training, is to provide, take advantage of Cloud Foundry's ubiquitousness and the common standardization that you have with Cloud Foundry.
Right. And just so that we are clear, when you are talking about Redis is available on these clouds, you are talking about in a managed service way, right? Where you don't have, like, as a developer, I can even spin off, let's say, an EC2 machine, and I can, do the whole 9 yards of deploying Redis myself and consume it. But then I am responsible to load balance it and take snapshots and make sure it's up and running. What you are referring to is it's available kind of as an RDS way, right? I mean, it's just there, you just start using it, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how we offer it. And again, like, we promote the open source as well. So if you want to take the open source, which is available via AMIs up on Amazon or Docker images, you absolutely can use that. Where we really specialize as a company is in clustering. Anytime you want to cluster, or if you want to have real-time, backups, or if you want to have anything more than one instance of Redis, especially for high availability or making sure your data is backed up, all that kind of stuff. So some people actually, there are companies who use Redis as their only database. So meaning they have all of their critical data only in Redis.
Wow.
Some people think that's crazy, but no. If you have more than one node and you're backing up your data, the odds of you using anything are about the same as you're using any other database. So, you just get a lot more speed out of it that way. And in some cases, it's the only way to do it because you need you have such high volume and such real-time requirements.
Right.
In-memory is the only way to go.
Right. That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and so a lot of folks don't realize this, but Salvatore Sanfilippo, who actually joined Redis Labs, and he primarily works just on open source. But it basically means that we are 100% committed to supporting the open source Redis. So if you build your application on open source Redis and then also want to use Redis Labs to manage your instances for you, it'll work seamlessly across both.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very important to us to commit to. So sorry, my alarm just popped up there. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely. It's nice to hear the commitment so many companies and organizations make to open source. But we've talked a lot about what we're enabled to do and all the great things. But I want to touch a little bit on, Dave, and what your opinion, what's a developer's biggest struggle with Cloud Foundry? And kind of, can we all work together to see it actually solved in 2016?
Well, I think that is my favorite topic because I have always been a strong believer in Cloud Foundry ever since the idea was first discussed. I have a particular story that I tell about how when cloud computing first came out as an idea that was running, it was run only on a proprietary platform on Amazon, and you could use it in this rudimentary function capability that we call EC2, which, by the way, you could kind of think of that as like an Apple II type product. It's very rudimentary, very simple, yet it proved that there was a customer base for it. But Apple II, as you recall, was like, it was a dark screen with some text on it, and that's about it. So, and then as a side note, DOS came along, and that you could run on multiple vendors' hardware. It wasn't just proprietary software on proprietary hardware. And so DOS came along, and you could run that on multiple vendors' hardware. Well, DOS is kind of like, in my opinion, kind of like OpenStack. It's this equivalent of EC2, and you can run it on multiple vendors' hardware. And developers clearly like this concept of this rudimentary functionality. However, we all know that that's not the long run. That's not where this is headed. Just like Apple eventually came out with the Mac OS, and then Microsoft eventually came out with it with Windows, that's the direction that the cloud is going, and that's platform as a service. So just like Heroku came out with its proprietary PaaS on top of Amazon's proprietary infrastructure as a service, you could say that the Apple OS X or OS is kind of like running on top of its proprietary hardware, and perhaps Cloud Foundry is now the equivalent of Windows. I know people don't like saying Windows, but maybe you can say Linux if you want. But it's it's got a GUI, and it's got the ability to have print drivers, and it's got all this additional functionality that developers want because they don't want to have to keep redoing that over and over again. So Cloud Foundry is, in my opinion, the most advanced of all of these, and the goal of Cloud Foundry is to make it easy for developers to focus on the value that they can create with their own ideas and not have to do all this rudimentary stuff that we keep having to do over and over and over again. So I would like to see Cloud Foundry just simply focus on removing the obstacles that we all have to do repeatedly over and over again. And I think it's doing a great job. It's got a little bit ways to go, but it's been doing a great job. And then what I'd like to do then is, now that the Cloud Foundry Foundation is out there, helping to promote a consistent certified platform. This now gives folks like me who are not committed to any one particular platform the ability to write code and lead workshops that can promote all of the platforms, because all of the certified platforms I can target my workshop towards and then let the users decide. So, that's a great first step. Now I would like to see, whether it's the foundation or whether it's HP or whoever it is, committing to contributing code for sample applications and sample, just components that will basically run on any certified Cloud Foundry. And then developers will feel comfortable that what they're learning is usable anywhere and can be used by their friends who might be running on a different platform.
Right.
Again, it all comes back to sharing. Can what you build be shared? And if it can be, then you can take advantage of, the overall community. And I think in today's world, that's the only way to go.
Totally. Community is the word for 2016, I guess.
Well, hey, it's been the word. It's growing, and it's now the big word.
Yeah, totally.
So a couple of things. I don't know if you want to bring this up now, but we do have some events that we're organizing.
Definitely.
Is now a good time to bring them up?
Of course.
Now is a perfect time.
Okay, let me get my list up here. Okay, so first of all, as you know, we have a Cloud Foundry meetup that's been scheduled for a little while now. It's in Palo Alto. One of your old friends, John Witherill, who used to work at Staccato, he's actually now over at BNY Mellon, working on Cloud Foundry over there. And they've offered us their venue to host a big data talk. So I think it's on the 21st. We have, sorry, it's popping up again. We have a talk where we have somebody speaking from IBM Watson to talk about big data, cognitive computing. And then that's going to be Thursday in Palo Alto. We also have a meetup on the 25th, where we're going to be, and this one will be in Mountain View at the Hacker Dojo, where we'll be talking about third-party service brokers, which is very important for extending the ecosystem, and also creating CPIs, so you can run Cloud Foundry on different platforms. And then, let's see, on February 25th, we have, let's see, I got to get this right. We have a talk in San Francisco about Docker, running Docker with Cloud Foundry, and we'll have Bridget Cromhout. I can't remember how to say her last name, but Cromhout. She's with Pivotal.
Yes, we know Bridget well.
Yeah, she just joined Pivotal, but I've known her before with her, I think, through some of the Docker events. And we're looking forward to her. She's actually going to do a demo of Cloud Foundry with Docker, so that'll be great. And I know we've been offered some space over at HP in Sunnyvale, so we're planning on doing an event there. We don't have a date yet, but we'll have that up there shortly. And then finally, this is a ways out, but we're going to be doing another Cloud Foundry camp the day before the CF Summit, the Cloud Foundry Summit, that's going to be here in, but that's not going to be until, I think, May. So
Yeah,
I think that
Cloud
might be
Foundry Summit is May 25th, so you're probably looking at the 23rd or 24th.
Yeah, I think it's Monday that 23rd. So, that's kind of what we got planned. And then, like I said before, we have this training that I'm working on. And then just slight variation on the theme here is I'm also going to be running an open container night at Container World, which is in February. I think it's on the February 16th. And, of course, we'll be talking about Cloud Foundry there amongst other container technologies. And February 17th, the following night in San Francisco, we're going to be doing a Redis hack night as a part of Developer Week. where we'll be setting up and showing folks how to use Redis, and I'll be using Cloud Foundry there as a part of that. So we'll be highlighting Cloud Foundry there. So lots of, and there'll be lots more, lots of Cloud Foundry and Redis on my agenda.
Yeah.
And
2016 already fireworks. I can see, like, you are all good, very nice.
Well, I really got lucky with this gig here at Redis Labs because there's so much of what they need me to do is what I like to do, and so it's lining up very well. And I think I was at a total of 33 different events, or I gave either lightning talks or full-on talks at 33 different events in the last 6 months, and I'm probably going to double that. So I'm going to be pretty busy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll see you at some of these things. Cloud Foundry Summit, North America in Santa Clara for sure. And hopefully Dev Week. Happy birthday to me during Dev Week. I mean,
excellent.
So anyway, we are running out of time. But Dave, I definitely want to extend a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with Sujay and myself today and our developer audience. It's really been a great discussion, and I know that you shared your Twitter with us. We've posted that on our channel so that people can continue the conversation with you and hopefully meet up with you at some of the events. I know you encourage those kind of conversations.
Definitely.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So, folks, remember to follow us at 2Protons. It's number 2 and Protons on Twitter. We'll keep you in the loop on our Twitter channel, and we are back with all new episodes and guests for all things cloud. Thank you for watching.
Yep. Thank you all.